Thank you, thank you. Well, I don't know what to say about after that, except I've got Jen fooled. Um, no, I'm so grateful that I get to work alongside Jen and just an amazing group of people here at Grace. Just so grateful. And so grateful that you're here this morning. Can I tell you, if anybody ever tells you that you are wimpy, you can tell them, I am not. Because I made it to Moms Connect on that morning. I made it. If you're here this morning and you had to get little people bundled up today and into the car and into the building, if that's you, could you just raise your hand? I got to show you some. Whoa. Let's show these women some respect. Wow. I kind of remember those days. I think I've kind of blocked some of them out. Could you just look at someone at your table and tell her, you made it? That's an accomplishment. Could you just tell one more person? I don't want anybody to be left out. You made it. You made it. I'm glad you're here. You made it. So, kids, something we all have in common, right? We've all had kids in our lives in some form or another. Kids often have an interesting perspective on things. Someone sent me this, and I thought it was funny, so I wanted to share it with you. So someone interviewed second graders, and they asked them a series of questions about moms. So I just wanted to share with you. I thought they were kind of fun. Maybe 9 questions they asked. The first one was, why did God make mothers? To help us get out of there when we were born, obviously. Another little one said, she's the only one who knows where the Scotch tape is. How did God make mothers? He used dirt, just like for the rest of us. I like this one. Magic plus superpowers and a lot of stirring. God made my mom just the same like he made me. He just used bigger parts. What ingredients are mothers made of? This one's great. God makes mothers out of clouds and angel hair and everything nice in the world. And one dab of mean. What kind of little girl was your mom? My mom has always been my mom and none of that other stuff. I don't know because I wasn't there, but my guess, it would be pretty bossy. What did mom need to know about dad before she married him? His last name. And does he make at least $800 a year? And did he say no to drugs and yes to chores? What does your mom do in her spare time? This is a wise kid. Mothers don't do spare time. What would it take to make your mom perfect? On the inside, she's already perfect. Outside, I think some kind of plastic surgery. And this other little kid said, dye it, her hair, I'd dye it, maybe blue. If you could change one thing about your mom, what would it be? She has this weird thing about me keeping my room clean. I'd get rid of that. And this one said, I would like for her to get rid of those invisible eyes on the back of her head. And the last one, why did God give you your mother and not some other mom? We're related. And this little kid said, God knew she likes me a lot more than other people's moms like me. That's so true, right? I like my kids so much more than any other mom could like their kids. In fact, I love to show you their pictures. So here you go. This is our family. I have 5 kids. I wore my kids' sweatshirt today. They gave me this, and it's 1 flower for each of my, their birth month flower or whatever. And when they gave it to me, they said, Mom, you're getting kind of forgetful. This will help you remember how many kids you have. You can just count. No, they didn't say that. They thought it. I know they thought it, but they didn't say it. But anyhow, these are our kids. This was a long time ago. That's my mom, Ma, with our 5 kids. And you see Lauren's the oldest, and then comes Nate, Joy, Anna, and Andrew. And this is a tradition in our family where when they were younger, my mom would buy out all the candy in Cuyahoga County, and they would make this Christmas candy village. And then on Christmas Day, we'd have a bunch of people over, and they would eat the Christmas Candy Village, and they loved it. I finally put a stop to it because all the sugar, I just couldn't take all the sugar, and besides, they grew up. And here's our family now. This was the last time most of us were together. There are a couple people missing, which I'll show you in a few minutes, but this was at our youngest, Andrew, his graduation. He's in the Air Force, and then, so he's the youngest one there, and then our daughter, Anna, is on that end in the green dress. She's the next one if we're working our way up from the youngest. Then comes Joy. She's in the Army. She's got on her Army uniform. And then comes Nate. He wasn't there, but I'll show you a picture of him in a second. And then Lauren and her husband, Brad. He's in the Coast Guard. That's why he's got on that uniform. And then our little people, Teddy and Ellie, our grandkids. So 2 people were missing. This one, another picture of our family to show you. Nate, he's the one in the beard. He's the one who wasn't there with us on the last picture. Same weekend, but he couldn't be there that night. And then the other one who was missing is our son-in-law, Xavier. So here he is with our daughter, Joy, and that's our family. So here we are. It went from that picture when they were little to that picture now. It went by about that fast. That fast. Like the days lasted forever, but all of a sudden the years had flown by. It was crazy, and here we are. So I got to say, for you young moms here, I owe you an apology. And here's why. Because recently I became a grandma, and there they are. You can see them up there. My Teddy and Ellie. He's 3, she's 1. And so I got to start spending more time with little people. And can I tell you that I'm realizing that I remembered all the fun parts about being a mom, and I had forgotten how hard it is to have little kids. I had just forgotten. So when you young parents would have a baby, or you'd be with your toddlers or whatever, I would say to you, "Oh, I'm so excited for you. It's so fun, isn't it?" And it is. It's fun, right? But I had forgotten how hard it is too. So I want to apologize to those of you who have had kids in the last 10 years or so, and I've maybe failed to validate for you how hard being a mom is. It was back in October of 2002. I was reading my Bible, and I have to put on my glasses when I look at this little print. And at that time, we had 5 children. Our youngest was 8 months old, and the oldest was 12. And I was reading my Bible in Colossians chapter 1, and just such a great passage. And I was reading along, and it says, the way you live will always honor and please the Lord, and you will continually do good, kind things for others, and all the while you will learn to know God better and better. We also pray that you will be strengthened with his glorious power so that you will have all the patience and endurance you need. And I stopped right there. All the patience and endurance you need. Lord, don't you know I have 5 little kids and they're driving me nuts? And I wrote right then in my Bible, I wrote October 2002, especially in the area of parenting, God can give me all the patience I need. Have you ever been there? Have you ever felt the need for God to help you? Whether you have babies, toddlers, elementary, teens, or grown kids, have you ever felt the need for God to help you in your parenting? I felt it. I still feel it. And I remember that day reading those words in my Bible and saying, really? God can help me in my parenting? Because there's so much joy in being a mom, right? It's wonderful and exciting and just so many good things about it. And at the same time, it's hard. It's hard. So the other day, our little grandson, Teddy, was having a conversation with his dad. And Teddy said to his dad, he said, "Daddy, could you help me with this?" And Brad looked at him and said, "You can do that, buddy." And Teddy looked at him and he said, "Dad, you are not being a problem solver." So I don't know that what we're going to talk about in this next half hour will solve all the problems. However, from someone who's been a mom for a while, I want to share with you some things that I've found to be helpful along the way. 3 things. As I've so wanted to be a mom with patience and endurance, and to find the truth of that scripture that God can help me in my parenting. So since it's Christmas time, we'll call it this, 3 gifts that you can give yourself for Christmas. And these are good gifts, no matter the ages of your children, babies, teenagers, adults, wherever you are in your parenting journey. The first gift is this. Give yourself the gift of laughter. Give yourself the gift of laughter. Here's what the Bible says. I love this verse. It says, a cheerful heart is good medicine. A cheerful heart is good medicine. I love when research backs up what the Bible says. And research tells us that that's true. A cheerful heart, laughter is good medicine. There will be times as a mom, at least based on my own experience and other moms that I've talked to, there will be times when you feel like a failure as a mom. Anybody else ever there? Like sometimes every day, sometimes multiple times in a day. So can I encourage you to give yourself lots of grace? Give your kids lots of grace. There is so much pressure from all around us, right? From social media, from our families, from other moms, there's just all this pressure to be the perfect mom, to do it all right. Can I tell you from this side of things that it is so much more important that your kids know that you like them, that you enjoy them, that you're glad to be their mom. It's so much more important that your kids know those things than that you be the perfect mom, perfectly put together. Your kids are perfect, all those. So much more important that they just know that you like them, that you enjoy them. So one great antidote to the pressure that comes down on us as moms, one great antidote is laughter. Lauren sent us a video of our grandkids laughing, and we watched it together, my husband and I, and he goes, every adult should watch videos of kids laughing. It just does you good, so let's do it. What if we could laugh that hard at someone pretending to sneeze, right? Do you know about gelotology? It's the study of laughter. Wouldn't it be great to be a gelotologist and just to study laughter? So here's what they tell us. Gelotologists tell us that laughing is great for stress relief. You know what happens when you laugh? Your heart rate and your blood pressure increase, and then they decrease, and it makes you feel good. That's what laughing does. It just makes us feel happier and more relaxed. Laughing releases endorphins. You know what endorphins are, right? They're the feel-good hormone. And when we laugh, we get endorphins. And when we feel better, it just makes it easier to cope. It makes it easier to be patient, to have endurance. Laughter does that for us. It also has a lot of physical health benefits. Did you know that laughing helps your immune system to function better? Laughing is good for us. It helps our hearts, our lungs, our muscles, because when we're laughing, we're breathing deeper. We're getting all that oxygen-rich air into our bodies. Just makes us, our hearts and lungs and muscles, does good things for them. Helps our muscles relax because our circulation increases, and that can reduce some of the physical symptoms of stress. So it's good for us physically. Also, this is very important, laughing is a good workout. Did you know that laughing 100 times is equivalent to 15 minutes on the exercise bike? That's a good thing, right? It works your diaphragm, it works your abs, it works your respiratory muscles, your facial muscles, it works your leg and your back muscles. Have you ever laughed really hard and then you feel exhausted? It's because you had a good workout. What a great way to increase your core strength, right? Just laughing. They tell us, gerontologists, that kids laugh 300 to 400 times a day. Do you know how many times adults on average laugh? You want to take a guess? 15 to 17. We lose something from the time we can laugh hysterically at someone pretending to sneeze, right, until we're adults and we carry around all this stress and all this weight, we forget to laugh. Oh, give yourself the gift of laughter because it's good for you. And it also helps to develop strong bonds in your family. I remember years ago, our Nate and Joy were playing a game at our kitchen table. I don't remember what game it was, but they were sitting there playing, and they're at our kitchen table, and Andrew was like maybe 2, and he's sitting on the floor playing with his toys. And he's just minding his own business, and it seems like he's totally oblivious to what's happening at the table. Well, all of a sudden, Nate and Joy started laughing about something, and I noticed that when they did, Andrew started laughing. He didn't even look up to see what was going, but it's like it's contagious, right? When we laugh, it produces bonds in our family. We used to play this game at our dinner table. You know, we always had a baby. We got 5 kids, so you've always got a baby around. And we would play Let's Laugh with the Baby. So what we would do is all of us who could understand what was going on, we'd say, let's just start laughing. And we would just all start laughing. And it wasn't long before the baby would start laughing too. It's just a contagious thing. When we laugh, oxytocin is released in our bodies. You know what oxytocin does, right? Oxytocin is a neurochemical part of human bonding. When we laugh, that oxytocin is released. People who laugh together form stronger bonds than people who don't laugh together. Parents, what does that mean then? Parents who laugh with their children, it produces bonds between them. They have better communication. It's good for your relationships, our relationships. I read this cultural anthropologist who said that, talks about what happens when people feel comfortable with each other, when they feel open, they feel free, they laugh together. And here's what they said. The more laughter there is, the more bonding occurs within the group. Isn't that something? Don't you find that to be true when you're with people? The more you laugh together, the more you just feel free and bonded with each other. So later on during the discussion time, you're going to have a chance to talk about what makes you laugh with your kids. Like, what do you do as a family to laugh together? And I'll share just one thing that we did. It's really silly. Actually, our daughter, Lauren, the one with the 2 kids, they've just started doing this with their kids. It's just such a fun memory from our home when our kids were little. So what we would do, it's kind of silly. I'm kind of embarrassed to even tell you about it, but I will. We would all go get our socks, lots of socks, and we would make them into balls. You know how you make your socks into balls? I can show you one day if you don't know how. We would all get our socks, and that would be our ammunition. And then we would just have a big sock fight night. And we would just bean each other with these socks, you know, and we're laughing, and we're picking up the socks, and we're laughing together. And here we are, however many years later, and our daughter's doing it with her kids, because it's fun, and it's good to laugh. What a silly thing that makes me emotional, thinking about sock fights. What's wrong with me? I don't know. So give yourself the gift of laughter, because it's good. It's a good gift. Second gift. Give yourself the gift of relationships. Relationships. The Bible tells us this. It says, encourage each other and build each other up. That requires relating to each other. There's something so powerful about parenting in community. Parenting in community. One mom that I read wrote this. She said, Mom friends can help you feel like you're not alone. They understand the nuances of daily life and can offer meaningful encouragement and tips. I've learned about teething remedies, sleep training, and amazing schools in my area from fellow moms. I can truthfully say that all in all, my life has grown richer from the friendships that I've made with other mothers. I can tell you for myself, I did not grow up in a home where I had a good, I knew my mom loved me, but I didn't learn how to be a good, healthy parent in my home. There was a lot of alcoholism, a lot of drug addictions, a lot of divorces, not like a place where you see, okay, this is how you form a healthy home for your kids. And I can tell you that so much about parenting is what I learned by watching other people. I remember one time when we had just our Lauren, she was a baby, and we had a reunion with Jonathan's siblings. He's one of 9, and we were there at this place, and just watching different ones parent and how they did it. And so one of the little toddlers, one of my little nephews, did something, I don't know what it was, but that needed to be corrected. And his mom, my sister-in-law Joy, just quietly walked over to him and very gently, got down where he was and just spoke to him, right to his face in just such a gentle way. And I thought, right then, that's what I want to be. That's what kind of parent I want to be. And I wish I could tell you that I did it perfectly, because I didn't. But I had that goal in mind. I had that example in mind. And I learned from her. In fact, I read this verse in my Bible not too much longer after that, I guess. And I wrote it down and I put it on my mirror. And it says this: kindness is the rule when she gives instructions. And that's what I want to be as a mom. So what about those days that are just especially hard? When you're like, I want to be a kind mom, but I'm not feeling it right now. And I don't like, it's hard. It's just hard. So maybe 20 years ago, I was in a Bible study with some other women. And you know how you just click with certain people, and there was one woman there that I just clicked with, and we became fast friends. We started running together, and we talked about everything. And she loved my kids. And I knew that she wasn't judging me as a mom. Maybe we did things differently, but she wasn't judging me, and I loved her kids. And I wasn't judging her. And we could talk about everything. We could encourage each other. We could challenge each other. We could pray for each other. We could listen to each other. There's a Swedish proverb that says this. It says, a shared joy is a double joy, and a shared sorrow is half a sorrow. And our friendship became that. We shared our joys, we shared our sorrows, and we were a lifeline to each other. We helped each other through some really difficult things. In fact, we still to this day have helped each other along, and she has helped me to develop that patience and endurance that I want as a mom. So give yourself the gift of relationships. You know why? Because swapping childcare is fabulous. When we lived in New York years ago, we had 2 kids. We had some friends who had 2 kids. Neither one of us had much money, so we said, hey, I'll keep your kids this weekend. You guys can go out on a date. And then switch the next weekend, and everybody got to go out on a date. It was fabulous. Swapping childcare is great. Give yourself the gift of relationships, because it's great for our children to have other adults who know them and love them. Because sometimes when they get to certain stages in life, for those of you who only have young kids, this is going to shock you. You are not always going to be the coolest person in the room. And it's so good when they have other adults who know them and love them. And then back to laughter. If you can find friends that make you laugh, that's a double bonus. Give yourself the gift of relationships. So I read that little portion of a letter that a mom wrote a little while ago, the one where she said, Mom, friends can help you feel like you're not alone. They understand the nuances, blah, blah, blah. And then she ended with, my life has grown richer from the friendships that I've made with other mothers. But then she continued on and she said this, but what if time spent with other moms leaves you feeling ashamed and guilty and inadequate? What do you do then? The reality is everyone has a different approach when it comes to parenting. All the topics that can be places where we find common ground and bond over shared experiences can also become grounds for bragging and claiming superiority. Have you ever found that in friendships? where there's just this, like you come away feeling awful about. So she goes on and she talks about setting boundaries and establishing friendships that are life-giving, and that's so important. But how do you do that? How do you find those relationships? How do you establish those friendships? Well, that could be another whole conversation. I'm not going to go into it all right now, but I will say that Latte, those of you who come to Latte, it's a once-a-month thing on a Monday evening. In February and in March, we're going to talk about relationships. So if you can't make it, you can find it online, and Sue's going to put up something up here to show you where you can find it. But that's coming in February and March at Latte. In fact, could you just look at someone at your table and say, let's go to Latte in February? That's a great idea. I like it. I will mention just one thing that I have found to be helpful. Building relationships takes time and it takes intentionality. I meet so many women who tell me that they're lonely. So many women. What if you're in that situation, what if you ask the Lord to show you a person who would be a good friend for you, a good fit for you, someone who will be life-giving to you and you to them? And then you put yourself in places where you can meet that person. It was 20 years ago in that Bible study that I met that friend that I was just telling you about. There are so many groups here at Grace you can be a part of. You can look online. You can see, Jen mentioned the classes earlier, or Lacey, somebody did, the small groups. There's so much happening here. Join the Moms Connect team and meet people, get connected that way. I want to give you one visual. One of my friends used to talk about this, and I thought it was real helpful. When you're looking for friendship, look for someone whose Lego block is not full. Do you know what I mean by that? Whose Lego block is not full. So each of us has a certain capacity for friendship. We don't all have the same amount of Lego pegs, right? Some of us can handle more friends than others. Some of us have Lego pegs that are all full. Like, I've got all the friends that I can handle at this point. Others of us have some Lego pegs that are empty. I need more friends. Ask the Lord to show you, when you're looking to build friendships, ask the Lord to show you someone who has some empty Lego pegs. Because that person also is in need of a good friend, and that is where to start building those relationships. Just ask someone, just go up to someone and say, hey, have you got any empty Lego pegs? What a way to start a conversation. So the second gift to give yourself is the gift of relationships. The third one is this: give yourself the gift of relationship. Oh, Mary, didn't you just say that? I did, yes. The second one was relationships with people. But this one is different. This one, so friends and family can be great. Friends and family can be great, but there is only one who can always be there for us. Only one who will never let us down. And here's what he says: come to me, all of you who are weary and carry heavy burdens, and I will give you rest. I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you. Let me teach you, because I'm humble and gentle, and you will find rest for your soul. That's what Jesus says to us. Something I heard 30-some years ago, and I've said it, I don't know how many times I've said it. People are people, nothing more. But God is God, and nothing less. Could you look at someone at your table and say, people are people? You could look at her and say, you're just a person. You're just a person. But, and if you believe this, if you don't believe it, you don't have to say it, but if you believe this, could you say it with me? People are people, nothing more. But God is God and nothing less. This blows me away. He knows everything about me. Every thought, every word, everything in my past, and he loves me. It's crazy. He knows everything about you, and he loves you. Ah, it's crazy. He's not limited. He's always with me. He never sleeps. He never gets too busy for me. Give yourself the gift of relationship, the one who can give rest to your soul. There is no person who can love you perfectly. No person who can do that. Only the Lord can do that. So give yourself the gift of relationship. Also because he knows and loves your children. It's hard to believe, but he loves them more than you do. I remind him of that sometimes. Lord, you love my kids more than I do. I'm trusting you with them. When I was a young mom, there was this philosophy, this parenting philosophy, that went something like this, and I know that this is an oversimplification, but something like this. If you, as a parent, if you do A, B, and C, then your kids are going to turn out like this. If you are the perfect mom, you do everything right, your kids are going to turn out like this. And I bought into that. I wanted so badly to be the perfect mom. Somewhere along the line, I realized that is manipulation. If you can just do all the right things, you can manipulate your kids to be what you want them to do. And so there was a big paradigm shift for me. And I changed. Instead of wanting to be the best mom so that my kids would turn out a certain way, my paradigm shifted. And I still wanted to be a good mom, the best mom I could possibly be. But there was a different goal. The goal was no longer that my kids would turn out a certain way. The goal was that I would be faithful to what Jesus called me to do. That every day I would be faithful to him, that I would pray for my kids and love my kids and set healthy boundaries for my kids and make great meals for all the things, that moms are supposed to do. But my goal was that at the end of the day, I would have been faithful to Jesus. And then I could leave my kids in his hands. They're your problem, Lord, not mine. Big paradigm shift for me. Not to manipulate my kids, but to be faithful to Jesus. And that was a huge paradigm shift for me. Huge in helping me develop that patience and perseverance that I wanted as a mom. Because my goal was different. My goal was to please Jesus. So give yourself the gift of relationship. You know why else? Because he knows your situation. He knows that you need wisdom and peace and strength and patience. He knows you need all of those things. I put some scripture verses on your note sheet so you can look them up. But I just want to read this one because it's been so helpful to me. I read it back when I was a young mom. It's in the book of Isaiah. You should read this whole chapter. It's amazing. But I won't read the whole thing just for the sake of time. I'm going to start at verse 9 of Isaiah chapter 40. And it says this: Your God is coming. Yes, the sovereign Lord is coming in all his glorious power. He will rule with awesome strength. See, he brings his reward with him as he comes. He'll feed his flock like a shepherd. He will carry the lambs in his arms, holding them close to his heart. He will, this is a different version than what's on the screen. He will gently lead the mother sheep with their young. I stopped right there. Because, can you look at someone at your table and just tell her, you look like a sheep? No, don't. Don't. I stopped right there. And do you know what I wrote in my Bible? I wrote, why is this verse in Scripture? And then I wrote this. Because being a mom is a hard job. He gently leads the mother sheep with her young. It's a hard job. But he's right there to walk with you through it. I still claim this, even though my kids aren't young anymore, because, compared to me, they're young. So it still counts. So whether we're juggling home and job, whether we're sleep deprived, whether we're frustrated, whether we're overwhelmed, we're single parenting, we're working on our marriage, Jesus is right there with us, leading and inviting us to bring our burdens to him, to look to him for patience and endurance. That verse in Colossians that I read, that I mentioned, it's true. He works with us in our parenting. He can help us. So Jen mentioned earlier that I like to run. I do. It's like my link to sanity. It's where I burn off my stress and all those things. Besides laughing, also laughing, I burn off my stress. So 13 years ago, I decided to run a marathon, 26.2 miles. Don't know why I decided to do this, but I did. So I registered for this race, and I started training. I got this 4-month plan, and it tells you, like, how much you have to run each day and how to increase your long runs and all these kinds of things, and what you're supposed to eat and how you're supposed to hydrate and all the things you're supposed to do. And I learned all these things, and I trained, and then came the day of the race. So I got to the starting line. I'm all set to go, and they did the gun, that tells you to start. And so I started running, and I kept running, and I kept running, and I kept running, and I kept running. Whew. I was persevering. I'm telling you, I was enduring. It took me 5 hours of running to get to the finish line. 5 hours. Don't be too impressed, because I was talking to our Andrew later. He was 9 at the time, and he looked at me and he goes, "Mom, you should have seen you at the end." It wasn't pretty. It wasn't pretty. I was not the fastest one out there by any means. I didn't break any records. I did not look impressive. But can I tell you something? When I crossed that finish line, do you know what happened? Here's what happened. I crossed that finish line, and amazingly, I was still vertical. And when I crossed that line, look what happened. They gave me this. They gave me this. They gave it to everybody, but they gave it to me. They gave me that, and it wasn't because I won, because I didn't. It was because I was faithful. Mile after mile, after mile, after long mile, I endured even when I didn't feel like it, and believe me, I didn't feel like it. They gave me this medal for faithfully finishing, for enduring. Moms, can I tell you, it's not about being the perfect mom. It's not about having perfect kids. It's about being faithful. It's about running the race that God has given to you, specifically to you, with your specific kids. If you are a mom who loves Jesus and you seek to be faithful in what he's called you to do, not perfect, but faithful, day after day after day after day, the Bible has a promise for you. Here's what Paul, one of the Bible authors, wrote. This is from the Message version. I like to read this version sometimes. He says, "I've run hard right to the finish. I've believed all the way. All that's left now is the shouting, God's applause." Other versions say it differently. All that awaits now is the prize, the crown of righteousness that the Lord will give me. And then he goes on, he says, depend on it. God is an honest judge. He'll do right not only by me, but by everyone who's eager for his coming. If you are being faithful to what he's called you to do, if you're looking forward to seeing him again, to pleasing him, I don't know if it'll be a medal like this. I doubt it. I think it'll be way, way, way better. He has got a prize waiting for you. So as we close, I would love to just pray for you, and I'd love to pray that God will make these 3 gifts more real to you this Christmas season. So I wonder if you're up to receiving that, if you might even just put your hands in a position that shows that you'd like to receive from the Lord, and I'd love to pray that blessing over you. Lord, I thank you for each one in this room right now. I thank you, Lord, that you walk with us through the hard times of being a mom. Thank you. Thank you that you love our kids more than we do. So I pray for each of these moms in this room right now and the ones who are listening online. God, would you pour out on them your blessings? Give them laughter. Give them opportunities to laugh. Give them relationships. Give them friendships that are life-giving. Let them be life-giving to the people in their lives too. And Lord, would you make their relationship with you, wherever they are in it right now, would you draw them in closer? Whether they're just seeking and wondering and asking questions, or whether they've been walking with you for a while. God, for each of us, would you give us a deeper love for you, a deeper understanding of who you are, a love for your word. Would you do it? Because you're good and you love us. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen. All right, I think Lacey's the boss. I think Lacey said, if you have any questions, because I'll just tell you right up, I don't really have any answers. I can tell you, here's what I did wrong, don't do it this way. But if you have any questions, I'd be happy to
just raise your hand.
Try to answer.
And okay, well, come on over here.
Nothing too hard. Don't ask me anything hard.
Just curious about running a marathon. Was that something that you did more for yourself, or was that something you did because you wanted to show your children that it could be done?
Ooh, that's a good question. Did everybody hear what she said? Running the marathon, was that something that I did for me or for my kids to show them, like to inspire them, give them? So I started running when I got a teenager. That tells you something, right? So running, I felt guilty about it at first because I'm like, it's something I'm doing for me. But then I realized actually the more healthy I am, the better mom that I am. And for me, that was is a really good stress reliever. And so I run for me, but it has become, interestingly, so I have 5 kids, I told you. The oldest 2 were already teenagers when I started running. The younger 3 all are runners. So I don't know, I guess it did kind of give them that, like, hey, you can do this too. And running's not for everybody. It's about finding what works for you, right? So I actually just ran another one a couple weeks ago, and my toes are purple. I can prove it by showing you, but I won't because they look really gross right now. But yeah, did that answer? Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
Kayla.
From your experience, you talked a lot about relationships and friendships.
Yeah.
How did you balance building relationships with believers, but also befriending those that don't know Christ to share your faith, especially as like a stay-at-home mom? It seems like, you have limited margins. So just wanted to know how you did that in your own experience.
Yes, great question. Did you hear over here? Okay. I love that phrase, limited margins. We feel that, right? We only have so much. And so I think in the places that God gave me, right? So this is going to sound bad. I don't mean it to sound bad. I need low maintenance friends. Did that, right? Like, so this friend that's so close that I talked to about before, we might go weeks without talking to each other. So there's not a whole lot of demand on our time for each other. And I know everybody's different, the way we do friendships, the way we live life, it's all different. So in the places where God put me, with kids who were involved in sports, that gave me good opportunities to interact with people who don't yet know the Lord. So I just asked the Lord to make me all there wherever I was, and then tried to build those relationships where he put me, with my neighbors, with the people that my kids played sports with, people that I met in the community through school or through whatever else. So yeah, trying to find that balance. And that's going to look different for each of us depending on where God has put us. But that's a great question, and I think it's an important thing to keep on the top burner. I feel like I didn't do it very well when my oldest kids were younger. I didn't see the need as much to develop as many friendships with people outside the church. But yeah, I think we need both. And there will be friends who are life-giving to us, and there will be other relationships in our lives where God puts us there to pour out and for him to pour through us into them. Yeah, so it's balancing that. Good, great question. Yeah.
Anybody else?
But for the people online, they do, they will need, yeah.
You always have a humorous story about about like a experience with your family, and since we can use a laugh, can you share at least one?
A funny story?
Yes.
About our kids. Oh, wow. There are lots to choose from. I'm not very good at thinking on my feet. Ooh, what's that? Oh, that was funny. Okay, if you weren't at Latte, I told a while ago about a time when we went whitewater rafting, and it was so funny because so we got there and there'd been a lot of rain, so the river was high. And have you been whitewater rafting? Anybody? Yeah, so some of you know a little bit about it. You get on this raft and you go out and there are waves and things. So anyhow, before we went out, my husband, he's the adventurous one, and he's always saying to me, "It'll be fine. It'll be fine." So he's telling our kids, it'll be fine. Just hold on. Make sure you hold on because you don't want to get thrown off the raft. Make sure so anyhow, we get on there and the first white water we hit, my husband gets thrown off the raft. And the waves are whipping around us and he's caught. And I just, how when you start laughing and you can't stop? I just started laughing, and I was paralyzed. I couldn't even help him get back in the raft because I was laughing so hard. And finally, we got him back on the raft, and he said to me, "I thought I was going to die, and you were laughing." So anyhow, yeah. Life is fun. Life is fun. You got to laugh, right?
Anybody else? I have one question. What does, now that you're a grandma?
Yeah. It's the best. Being a grandma is the
yes,
best.
Like, what is that relationship like now with Lauren and, just that second generation?
It's wonderful. So I'll just tell you, I don't know if my Lauren's watching. Lauren, I hope I usually try to ask before I share things, but there was a time when Lauren was in high school, and, she's a teenager, and some teenagers like their parents more than other teenagers do. And we weren't trying to be nosy. We just found a note that she had written to her friend, and so we read it. And it said in there how much she couldn't stand her dad. And I'm sure she couldn't stand her mom either. Kids go through these things, right? And so it was so sweet. Several years later, when she was in college, and she wrote her dad a note that said, "I want to marry someone just like you." So, I'm a crier, sorry. So, on his desk for a long time, he kept those two things side by side. And I tell that story because relationships are not static, and sometimes we go through seasons with our kids. And if you're in a tough season, be faithful, endure, mile after mile after mile. And sometimes things change in ways that you didn't see coming. So anyhow, I don't even think that was the question. The question was, with my grandkids, it's so sweet to see her parenting her kids and to watch her, she's such a better mom than I ever was. So to watch that happen is so sweet. So they live a long way away. They live in Oregon because he's military and they, go where they tell you to go. And so we make really good use of FaceTime. And we read books on FaceTime, and we play with little puppets on FaceTime, and we sing, and we do all these things. And it's the best. And I love it. Did I answer your, I got lost
Yes.
in my thoughts.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Don't make me cry, Joanna,
know,
okay?
listen.
That's enough crying.
So, what is one piece of advice that you would give to moms of adult children who are no longer living at home
like
Yeah.
about your relationship and how, because you don't necessarily obviously parent them anymore.
Right, right, right. Parenting changes a lot of times along the way. You parent a baby differently than a toddler, differently than all the way up. When your kids are adults, it's a new stage. And if I could give one piece of advice, not that I know everything, but here's what I would say is love your kids. Just love them. They're going to do things that you don't agree with. I've heard some parenting philosophies that, like, if your kid does this that you don't agree with, then you should cut them off, because you don't agree with that. That's not where I am. I want my kids to know that I love them. I don't want to shut the door to them. So sometimes I have to hold my nose, when they do things that I maybe would do differently. But I want them to know that I love them. And so I pray for them. I overlook some things. So that would be my advice. Keep that relationship strong. The likelihood is they know what you think. They know what you believe. Love them. Love them. So,
Thank
yeah.
you. Anyone else? Oh, over here. Okay. We have several. Okay, I'll go here first. You're closer.
I don't know if you've had to deal with this, but your married children having their partners not want them to be around you.
Yeah.
How can I deal with that?
If you didn't hear that, if your child has a partner who doesn't want you around, how do you deal with that? That is really hard. Jesus is your best friend. Talk to him about it. Talk to him about it, and talk to him about it. Ask him to change their heart and do everything that you can, not to force them to come to you, but to want them to come to you. And sometimes they will and sometimes they won't, and that's such a hard thing. But you want them to want you, not to feel forced to come to you. And don't ever put your child in the middle where they have to choose between. Yeah, I'm sorry. That's a hard thing. Keep praying, keep loving. Keep running mile after mile after mile after mile. There's a reward at the end. Yeah.
So you mentioned growing up without an example of parenting, and then also later on deciding to run marathons.
Yeah.
Were there any tips and tricks that you did to motivate yourself to change habits and how to stick to it when you know that there's something that you would like to change and be a better example?
That is a great question. So how do I leave behind that and move towards what I want to be? Is that kind of right? Wow, there's so many layers to that. I think a lot of the emotional pain, a lot of the yuck that I went through as a child, you have to deal with that, right? A lot of times people say, it's in my past, I'm just bearing it, it doesn't affect me now. Oh yeah, it does. It does. And some of the things in my very early parenting, especially that I saw come out, like some anger and some things like that, I had to deal with the hurt of my growing up because it was coming out in ways that were not pretty. So here today, I would say we offer something called Making Peace. It's fabulous. It helps you look at where those wounds happen and how to find healing for those things. So, and actually, this is a miraculous thing. It's my mom who leads those retreats because she's been through so much healing herself, and she knows then how to help walk other people through that. That's so important in parenting. And then on the side of I think I want to start running. Start small with little things. The way I started, my one daughter was in first grade and she wanted to run the Mustang Stampede, which was a 1-mile race. And I said, okay, I'll run with you. And so I started. And it's easy to start from right here and say, I want to run a marathon, but to start with those little things. And it's that way, whether it's emotional healing, whether it's physical things, whether it's diet changes, and then find people to come around you to help you reach those goals that you want to reach. So yeah, start little, and just little bit by little bit by little bit. Yeah, yeah.
Great, thank you. Anyone else? All right, well, thank you so much, Mary. Let's give Mary a big
Thank you.
round of applause.